Hi, welcome back. I am Kimile with Heal with Kimile podcast. And today we're talking about how not to get roller coastered by somebody else. People tend to project their angers and their frustrations on others when they're going through something, and the blame begins. Now, if you're dealing with someone who's really triggered, very upset, angry, hostile, or really emotional, sad, crazy, crying, and it's somehow your fault, or you're feeling like, what's going on with this person? This doesn't seem right. I don't feel like I did this, or I don't think that this should be such a horrible reaction for whatever I did or didn't do. You might be right. You probably are right, actually. So when people are extremely triggered, it's usually something from their past that they're incomplete about that's now superimposed on the present time person. And so either something in their life is triggering this trauma, or, a past incomplete relationship, or they have been not sleeping, not eating right, they're physically not well. And so they're very vulnerable, they're easily excitable. So they're not, I call it, are you well fed? Are you well rested? Are you able to communicate clearly? Are they able to be present? And, when think about your children when they were little, it's like when they were acting up or moody, you go, oh, they're probably tired. They need to eat. They haven't had their nap. You just kind of knew that there was something off with your kid. And, you kind of just had your checklist of what they needed to feel better. Well, I think adults are probably the same way. And if you've been with someone for a long period of time, maybe they get the hangry, thing going on. It's like, oh, it's at 3 or 4 o'clock in the afternoon. Where are we going to eat? What are we going to do for dinner? It's that, repeat conversation because they're hangry. And until they get their blood sugars balanced out, they're going to be in a mood. So you kind of get to know people and how they operate and how their physicality is. But if you've got somebody in your life that's extremely upset, highly volatile, and nothing you do or say is calming them down or making them feel better, and you seem to be the problem, the worst thing you can do is defend yourself, to go along with it, or say, or to fight back, say, I'm sick of this. And, if you go into this combative mode with them, you engage. If you engage in this battle, now you're possibly making it worse for them and yourself, because you're almost insane with them. I know that sounds maybe insensitive, but there's an insanity happening, and that person's not present, they're triggered, and they're projecting that trigger onto you. So if you go into that trigger with them and you start defending yourself or fighting back, you're actually engaging, acting like it's real. And when you're defending yourself, that's like you have something to defend, when you probably don't. You really have nothing to defend. Maybe you hit their button, so to speak. Maybe you said something that triggered this reaction, but that doesn't mean that that's your fault. So my advice in how to handle that would be, don't engage, don't defend yourself. You can say, wow, what's going on? What are you being reminded of? What's happening? What is it you're really upset about? See if you can't get that person to locate what's the true trigger, what's the real upset. And you could say, who am I reminding you of? Has this ever happened before? And if they're too upset, they're probably not going to be able to process it with you at that moment. They need to calm themselves down. But if you go along with their program, this will happen over and over and over, and you'll be the person they project on, because you'll engage them and defend yourself. But again, defending yourself is what's usually enraging, because you're getting some sort of misdiagnosis. So they're projecting something on you. You're this, you're that. And that's what's offensive to you, is you're not this, you're not that. You're not a liar. You're not a cheater. You're not somebody who has hurt them in the past. But if they're saying these things to you, they're upset about their past still, thinking that you're like that person in the past. And again, that might make you upset and mad, because I've done nothing to deserve this. You're right, you haven't. So this is something that you want to really be present with yourself, not to engage and give them the reaction they're looking for. They want to fight. They want to fight out their pain. They want to, get rid of it. I'm not saying that they're intentionally trying to hurt you, but they're in pain themselves. So this is where the therapy comes in. And, this is usually a routine fight amongst couples. It's the stuff that individuals are not over their past. And so that past is now creeping into this relationship, and you're taking it out on each other. And everybody's got something like this. I don't think anybody I've ever met doesn't have something they're still dealing with from their past. Some people are better at it than others. My goal is to live life without getting upset. Now, that's not really possible, but that's a goal. That's my goal. I want to be able to have equanimity in all places and all spaces and with everybody and not let myself get triggered. But that's my what I aspire to. And I'll probably live my whole life aspiring to that. But I do feel like when people get reactive themselves, if you start reacting with a person that's accusing you of something or trying to take something out on you, you're engaging in that trauma with them and you're actually adding gasoline to a fire. You want to pull back, observe, try not to emotionally react or engage. And this is what's really hard. Try not to take it personal. If you take it personal, you're engaged. Even if you're not, talking or trying to fight with them. If you took it personal, somehow you engaged. And that's what's going to linger on you. That's where you will have to look at leaving the relationship or doing something different, because this person is going to continue to project whatever pain onto you. And if you start defending, basically, I'm not hurting you. That's usually the bullet point of it, is that this person's saying, you're hurting me in some different language. You're this, you're that, which means you're hurting and betraying me. And you're not hurting and betraying them. But how do you convince them of that? You don't. They're not seeing clearly. Their perspective is off. You're reminding them of somebody in their past that's harmed them. And because of that, their wound is now kind of on you. And the only way to really get this sorted out is they have to take it on. You're not going to be able to make them hear you or make them see you for who you really are if they've got this going on. And that's hard to hear. That's hard. I don't want to say you're completely helpless and powerless, but this person has to realize that they're triggered and this is in them. Their upset is their problem and they're trying to make it your problem. This is a dynamic that happens in couples that have been together for a long time. And, it's interesting because I think that that's the safest place for these people to work out their trauma is with a relationship that's not going anywhere, a safe space. And so it is, it's kind of a testimony of the trustworthiness or the safeness of the relationship. And I point that out to some couples that are going through this kind of dynamic. Obviously, this is coming up because this person loves you and you are safe to deal with your stuff. People always ask me, why am I dealing with this crap now when before I was in survival? And it's because your survival is handled. You're probably in a safe space. So because you're safe, your system is able to release these memories and trauma because that person is going to be able to help you process through it and love you through it. But it is hard on your partners. It's hard on people around you if you've got some past painful stuff you haven't ever dealt with. But you don't want to take it personal. And the minute you're taking it personal, you're now affected by it. We all have an identity. We all have these perceptions of ourselves and perceptions of other people. And in this identity, it's offensive to us when someone doesn't see us clearly. But the truth is most people aren't walking around in their life present. They're walking around in their life absent. And they're usually highly emotional. They're not conscious. They're unconscious. People live their life to numb out. They're scrolling all the time. That's a dopamine hit. They're maybe doing a dab pen or they're smoking pot or they're drinking. Again, people are not 100% present in their daily lives. So it's difficult to have people truly see who you are in a good relationship. So the ideal situation is take nothing personal. Now, I say that and I mean that. I really think that life, if we take something personal, we are offended by it. And that's what seems to stick, right? So let's talk about something a little serious. So maybe someone passes away, somebody dies, a relationship passes away, a spouse passes away. And of course it's going to leave a void and of course it's going to hurt and you're going to need time to process this. And this may take years. This may take a lifetime to heal and recover from. I do believe that grief is its own, world, and grieving is necessary. And it isn't personal that person died. They didn't die at you. And I've had a lot of people mad at God or mad at the universe or, the organizer or whoever organized this and they took them from me or, I think that that's a normal response because we just want to blame something. We're angry and there is a betrayal and life has changed and there's something different now. And that means we have to change with it. And I didn't ask for that. No, you didn't. However, if you personalize loss, you're personalizing projection, whatever you're taking personal is running you. And what if it isn't really about you? What if that person was going to die no matter what at that time or they were going to, leave or whatever. I'm not saying it's not going to hurt, but that you take it personal, it means something about you, is where the real pain is. And that's where the processing needs to happen. Is you got to look at what it means about you that this experience happened. What are you making it mean about you? So the personalization of life experiences is where I think people get stuck. It's hard to just accept that a child dies. It's hard to accept that someone leaves or they die. Just accepting life, that it just happened. It doesn't have to mean anything. It doesn't have to upset us, but it does, because we are feeling, we have feelings. We're that's humanity. But I think when people start healing and they take on processing their pain and dealing with losses and past betrayal, ultimately they have to look at how they personalized what happened, how it made them feel inadequate, or they believed it, meaning whoever betrayed them or called them names or hurt them, they believed it. And they're left, look at them before the loss or the incident and look at them after. What's the new addition? What's the new story that they have to tell about themselves? I'm not saying it in a victim way. Now, how do they identify themselves? This is the identity I'm talking about. We all live in identities. What hat are you wearing? Well, we're siblings, we're spouses, we're parents, we're coworkers. We all wear certain hats in life. It's the roles that we live inside of. And we have these roles. We are not just that role, but we have these roles. But when these roles leave our lives, then it leaves kind of a void. It does leave a void. So when that happens, if we aren't able to release it and let it go and then step into something new, this is where pain is. This is where we get stuck in life. I'm working with a lot of people that are dealing with loss. And here's a good example. And it's kind of tricky because we develop our own identity from our environment, the things that we're told. I mean, from birth, we're told who we are. You're so cute. You're so pretty. You're so strong. You're so smart. You're such a brat. You don't listen. We're basically told who we are, what we like, what to feel from the second we're born. And at some point we have to decide for ourselves who we're going to be and what we're going to think and feel. And that's maturity. That's how everybody grows and matures. That's normal. But if you're in a relationship and, let's just say hypothetical, you've been a wife and a mom and you want a different expression of yourself. You want to know yourself differently. This is where they call it midlife crisis. But people usually live a while inside of an identity. And in the beginning, it's great. They're fine. They're newly married and they're spouses and they have children and they want their children and they love their life. Eventually they want a different expression of themselves. Not necessarily a whole new life. They just want to know themselves differently because they're typecast. They feel like the die is cast and they really can't feel or experience themselves any other way. And their relationships don't see them any other way. So for example, if you're a housewife and you've been a mother for the last 20 years of your life and you want to start a business or you want to lose a lot of weight and become a bodybuilder, is there support in your family? Are your friends going to see you that way? Is this going to be are you just going to be an identity to them of, I can't imagine you that way. I can't believe that you would want to do that. People sometimes get a lot of pushback when they want to change, when they want to have a different self-expression. But that is how we as human beings are. We all need to evolve and express ourselves newly and differently. And so we all need to feel like we are choosing our path. And we want to be perceived how we want to be perceived and not held in our past. Or you can't do that. You're the oldest child. You're supposed to take care of everybody. Or you can't do that. You're my wife and you are supposed to take care of the kids all day. People have a hard time with change. And when other people change, it can be very difficult for your spouse or for people that are your friends in your life. I have a client who went through a really bitter, ugly, long divorce. They didn't have a lot of money, but this gentleman was really angry with her, just said, you ruined my life, that you left me. And she was successful in her business. She had some notoriety. The community loved her. And she was probably a leader in the community. And I think people respected her. And he had credibility with her because of that. But what kind of came out and why she left him was he had a gambling addiction. He was an addict. They had financial trouble. He had some secrets financially. He'd taken her name off things, stole some, identity and got some credit cards, racked up some bills, refinanced the house multiple times. She didn't know these things. And so he was using her as credibility. As long as he had her, he looked good. And she didn't know, they weren't fighting. She didn't know all these financial things were going on. He had also cheated on her, and there was stuff that he wasn't this great guy, but he looked like this great, perfect husband and perfect father. So when she found some things out and she left him, he feels horribly betrayed by her. And you think, well, wait a minute, he betrayed her. He's stole her identity. He's racked up all these bills. He's gambling. He's screwing around with other women. Yet he feels betrayed. Does this sound familiar for anybody out there? The classic term, oh, he's a narcissist. Okay, fine. But this is true for him. He feels completely betrayed by her because now he has to start over with his own image. She's his beard, so to speak, right? She's the credibility. She makes him look good. People don't doubt that he's a good man as long as he's married to her. And when he doesn't have her to be the front person or to make him look good, he's going to have to generate himself in the community and create relationships and look good on his own. But he hasn't handled this divorce well at all. He's done everything he can to try to make life harder on her, to the extent of poisoning the girls. Every time they're with dad, he's crying or he's really upset. Your mother's ruined my life. I can't live without her. Yet he didn't stay faithful to her. And financially betrayed her and sexually betrayed her. And again, this is not an easy relationship, but yet he's jilted by her. So he's telling these kids all these things, such child abuse, by the way. And one girl's in counseling, one girl's not in counseling. And the one not in counseling hates her mother, tells her mother she hates her. Mom started dating somebody really great, and I hate you. I don't want you around my mother. Get out of my life. She'll kind of walk by and hit her shoulder on him. She's antagonistic, and she's going to make sure that he's got a miserable experience whenever he's over at their house. So she's actually running daddy's agenda. So dad doesn't want mom to move on. Dad doesn't want mom happy. The boyfriend actually had to walk away because he can't take it. He just can't take this kind of stuff from the daughter. The boyfriend said something to the daughter, like, you can't talk to your mother this way. You've got to quit doing this stuff. Because the mom's, getting verbally abused by the daughter. How could you? You've hurt me. You ruined dad's life. This is literally what this girl's doing. She's just daddy's mouthpiece. It's really sad to see. So this goes on, and the mother is feeling so guilty and desperate to help this child. The boyfriend and the daughter have words, yeah, I think we need to break up. And this guy is really good for my client. But they break up for a while, and then as soon as the girl hits 18, she's gone. She doesn't need mama. She's out there. It's just out of there. Bye-bye. So it really is a wake-up call. And even when the boyfriend was gone, who was a really good guy, the daughter was still terrible to her mother. So it's interesting, and we would do anything for our children, right? We want to make sure our kids are okay, and I think that's the wise choice. We have to make sure our kids get raised, and they are the priority, not new relationships. But she had kind of a aha moment, my client. She realized that this is not really true. It isn't that her daughter needed her so much. She just thought she did. So now, things have changed, and the daughter went off to college. Well, the daughter's going to come back. And by the way, the boyfriend stuck around. They're still seeing each other now, and they're doing well. But the the daughter's coming back from college. And so we'll see how this goes. Hopefully there's some maturing. But it is literal child abuse when, ex-spouses utilize the kids to be the mouthpiece or the spy or something like that against the other spouse. It's just awful. But it's interesting how these kids get caught up in, fighting with the battle of one or the other. And it isn't a true battle. It's not even reality. This guy really doesn't deserve to have a wife because of what he did to her behind her back. But he's going to make sure that he runs his little story, runs his little agenda, and makes the kids feel so sorry for him. Now, that only lasts for so long. At some point, people wake up. People see the truth. But this is what you want to not do is engage and fight someone's battle or believe it, because, again, it just keeps it going. It adds to it, right? So the whole thing is to not take it personal and not to believe it and champion it and fight the battle. And I'm not saying that, there's not times that you need to believe people and help them out. But in most situations, when you've got someone trying to dominate in a divorce situation, it's probably not 100% accurate. And if you're using a child to do this, shame on you. So the intention is to identify who you want to be. Like, what is your role in life? What role do you want to play in your life? What story do you want to tell? And what's your future going to be decided by you? And if you can pull that off, well, that's what a lot of people, that's what causes, I think, true fulfillment and true happiness. because you want to identify yourself instead of having other people identify you or give you direction. You need to choose for yourself. It's that authentic version of us. And once we kind of figure out, we get that aha moment of, oh, this is who I am. This feels right. Now you're self-governing. Now you're seeing who you really are and what your potential really is. And when you align yourself with life purpose, with your purpose, you really do feel like you're living a fulfilled life. So relationships are tricky at best, and the goal is not to get roller coastered by anybody or fight someone's battle. Believe in them, help them fight their own battle, help them get stronger, and have a dialogue where you're not having to defend yourself. I think that that's the kind of a tell if you're with someone who's always upset and projecting, you're hurting me in different language, different words. But if you're with someone who feels like they're getting hurt all the time, maybe this isn't the right relationship for you, because who wants to be that person where you're always the bad one, you're always harming, you're always seen as, yeah, that's right, I'm the loser, I'm the a-hole, I'm the one that's hurt you. That isn't how you heal in relationships, is to blame and guilt trip. Guilt trip to me is emotional violence. It's a way of dominating somebody and utilizing their goodness against them. And I'm not saying that, if there's a betrayal and something happens, initially there might be a guilt trip, but not to be leveraged against that person over and over and over. And if you're getting guilt tripped like this, or, again, the minute you engage and keep saying sorry, you're not helping the situation. You're only just prolonging the inevitable. At some point, you can stop saying you're sorry. You've made amends. You've cleaned up the mess. And if you haven't, you should. You should clean up the mess and say you're sorry, make amends. What will it take? Ask that person, what will it take for you to let this go? And then you do that. Well, call so-and-so and clean it up and let them know that you did hurt me or you lied or whatever. Within reason, make amends if you can. And then if that person still can't let it go and they still want to attack you, they're dealing with some past painful trauma they're projecting onto you. And then so they almost need you to be the bad guy. They need to use you as a punching bag, so to speak, emotionally. So tricky, relationship stuff's tricky, but the intention is to know thyself and to have healthy relationships, not get roller coastered by other people because they're upset, not let them upset you, to have some clarity and some presence when people are going through something so that you can be a guide, you can be a listening ear, you can provide emotional air. And the minute you lose your cool and you get upset with them, you're powerless. Didn't help. It doesn't help. This is kind of what I'm good at, is kind of locating what's the real trigger, what's a real issue, because a lot of time it's a projection and it's not what it's about. And, when people fight about the same thing over and over and they never find resolve, they never get resolved in their fight, this is why. Because they're not really talking about what's really bothering them. It's not the truth. It's just not the truth. I have another client who, broke up with her boyfriend. He broke up with her and he just says, we're not compatible. I don't want to talk to you. I don't want to see you. And she just keeps going over. She keeps calling him. She keeps putting herself through this routine, rejection. And I'm like, what, honey, what are you doing? What is this about? He's made it very clear. He doesn't want to talk to you. He doesn't want to see you. And she'll just sit here and cry, but she'll go over again. Or she calls his mother. Like, she will just continue to put herself in this line of fire. And he's cruel. I mean, I think he's being cruel because he's just trying to end it with her. But there's just no understanding. She doesn't understand why. But I said to her today, I said, look, I need you to look at what this is reminding you of, because this isn't really about the present time. You logically get, we're taking a break. This guy and you are on a break. This isn't working. But this emotional reaction you're having, you go back over and over like you can't believe he would do that, because he's reminding you of who. And well, he was my best friend. He was my best friend. Okay, so I'm going to look at what friend in her past betrayed her or rejected her or hurt her. And she was too young and immature to understand that she just needed to walk away. She kept going over thinking, what's wrong? Why won't you talk to me? This could have been junior high. This could have been, 6 years old. It's when you're little and you don't really get the clues, you're not catching on. So there's something that's re-stimulated for her because she's putting herself through the same hurt over and over and over. And so when you're doing that to yourself, even, you're triggered. There's something you're triggered by. And it is that loss that you're reliving over and over. And then you think that you are bad and sick and wrong and something's, not right with you or you're unlovable. And then you keep reaffirming that negative belief. But that negative belief has probably been there since the original wound or friend betrayal. But when she said, oh, he's like my best friend. Okay, now I know probably a best friend betrayed her, or one of her early childhood friends left her confused, and she had no clue why the relationship ended. So she's just not able to process this loss because she never got to finish and process the past loss. So that's our next session, is to try and help her figure out what really this is triggering for her. Look, some of this stuff takes a little time to sort out. I'm pretty good at helping people find out exactly what the real trigger is. And I have a 90-day coaching program. I do have a handful of people that are doing this program. You can kind of start anytime, but it's a 90-day workbook, and therapy with me. So it's a little deep dive into your unconscious and your past, and to kind of see where you're stuck. And so if you've got this routine issue where you find yourself just in the same pattern, over and over, there's a way to kind of unhook you from that. It takes a little time, but we can do it. But this 90-day program is very powerful, and it does help people get their power back. It kind of sets them free. So I'd love to talk to you about that if you're interested. You can go to my website and you can sign up there at healwithkimile.com, HEAL with KIMILE.com. Keep watching my podcasts. Would you like, share, and subscribe? I appreciate it. And thanks, and hope your relationships are magical. Bye now.